Do you see him on my nose?
Yes, I do.
Come on, come on, come on.
That's a 16. That's a. Your gear is down. Your gear's down.
That explains a lot.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Hey everybody, Plasma 1945 with you, and mistakes have been made, but we're going to rectify them. Here we have the F-5E on the Growling Sidewinder server. Got a couple of AIM-9 P5s that I'm going to shoot at an airplane that's going to be way too high above me, and a fuel tank. But even more important than that, I've got a 3-point landing system that I'm going to taxi out on right now, and for whatever reason I'm going to forget to bring up for most of my flight. That's right, guys. Plasma is probably one of the few guys out there who sometimes can land. Actually, I can land, I'm just too lazy to. But also who can cruise for 30 minutes with his gear down and still score an air-to-air kill. Alright, so I flew all the way from Vaziani to Tbilisi Red Zone on a Growling Sidewinder to the north towards Beslan, and there is an F-16. The F5 is all about bogey dope. I'm doing left to right scan and spot a tiny speck here, and let's turn right into this F-16. Now, for the external views, guys, those are filmed after the fact, but until Nomad told me about halfway through my dogfight that my gear was down, I had no idea. So, what about the F-5E versus the F-16? While I'm chasing down that F-16, we got to remember that the Block 52 has the F-100 PW229 engine. That puppy can pull out 17,000 pounds and up to 28,000 pounds of thrust compared to my 6,000 to 10,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. That's right, it does have one engine, but it goes way better than I do. I've got my gear down, and this guy's fully loaded with weapons. So, I'm coming up over this hill, and I am looking around to spot a tiny speck. Just to be sure, I open up the F10 map and make sure that there is no friendlies, because there are F-16s on both sides. Get real close. It is an F-16 on the F10 map. I was the only guy in the bushes. So that means it's time to get into a dogfight. And if you look over to the TAC view in the top right hand corner, you can see that I am settled in on this guy's semi 6 o'clock, but we are going into what's known as a scissors. And if you look at it top down, it's kind of like a pair of scissors going back and forth, each aircraft trying to get into the other guy's 6 o'clock position, while trying to deny the other guy the 6 o'clock position as well by reversing. Now, as you can see, the F-16 is in full afterburner, and his first mistake was to go into the scissors. He has more than enough power to get away and come back in with his AIM-120s to shoot me. And the other thing that he's got to do, and the guys, you got to remember this for all of your flying, is as soon as you're in trouble, first thing you got to do is dump your fuel tanks and dump your bombs. Jettison as much of the stuff as you can, because you need to be as quick and as performant as possible. Unfortunately, my nemesis here does not do that all the way until he goes down. But we're still far away from him going down. For now, he is doing a left-hand turn, diving. I'm on his 6, firing some guns at him. There you go. As you can see, he's fully loaded. All his tanks are still there. He is going into a dive, but he is pulling his nose real high up. He's really just literally riding on his jet engine there. Again, he starts diving, trying to extend away from him because he can tell that he's just not keeping up. Right around here, Nomad already told me that my gear was down. Now it's up, and I've got some first hits on the F-16. Must be very hairy to have a black MiG-28 on his 6 o'clock. There's additional hits. Take a look. He pops out his air brakes as I overshoot, and I see I'm going to overshoot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off hard to the right. What I want to do is I want to deny him a shot into my butt, because I don't know if he's got AIM-9s, and if he does have those, he's got short-range capability. He doesn't turn after me. He continues down the valley. He sees me and then comes right back in again. That's another mistake. He doesn't have a lot of speed, but he pulls back as hard as he can. His nose passes right under me, fires guns, but I pop a whole bunch of flares. Again, I can't tell if he's got AIM-9s. Those go for heat sources. Way too close for an AIM-120 here, but it could definitely be an AIM-9M or an M9X that would screw me up really bad. Alright, keeping my eyes on this F-16. I see him passing under me. He's in full afterburner, but now I've got a bit of maneuverability back as well. And we're back into those scissors. Here he goes over to the left. Now this is actually a really important point here, guys. what he's doing is he's making a sharp left turn. And what this does is this allows him a chance to build up his speed. He's literally across my nose there on the other side of the hill by those trees, and he's spinning around the back side of the hill. Now what this gives him is this gives him a chance to regain his airspeed. And you have to remember, the F-16 is designed to fight at speed, but on and not on these sharp turns. He's got short stubby wings. He needs to have the airspeed to keep himself going. And here again, he pulls back on the stick right into me and loses any airspeed that he just built up. Yep, he is above me. He does have a bigger engine. He didn't drop his tanks. We're pretty even, but every time he turns into me, he just loses airspeed, and that is fatal. After some hits and damage, my nemesis goes down. Press F to pay respects. Alright guys, let's take a look at the TAC view here. Alright guys, so here is the fight. I make my turn and I try to follow this F-16 across. A couple of numbers to look out for. We're going to pause here. I'm going to run those by you. The numbers that you're really looking for are the airspeed, that's the TAS, and the AOA. Now the AOA is the angle of attack. That is how much the aircraft that you're tracking is pulling back on their stick. The higher the AOA, the likelier that they're going to be losing speed by turning their aircraft into a giant speed brake by pulling up too much or pulling back too much on the stick.
Refers to the high angle of attack at which the aircraft will be flying. Captain Dover will be holding the Viper at a 20-degree nose-up position and moving only at 120 miles per hour. As he passes, notice the gray paint scheme of the F-16.
Alright, so here I'm coming over the mountain. He crosses my nose. And right here we kind of go into a scissors. Our speed here is in knots. I actually have a little bit more speed here because he made that sharp turn, but the F-16 can regain a lot of his speed back. Crosses my nose, fire some shots, and we go into this scissor here. Now, the move for the F-16 in this situation, if he recognizes that I'm an F5, is to get away from me and to pop flares, make a big circle, come back and shoot me, right? He shouldn't stay here in front of me because, well, he's not really playing to his advantage. He's got short stubby wings, but he has one heck of an engine. So let's keep going through here. So he reverses again, and look at his AOA. He's pulling 26 degrees. He is yanking back on his stick to do that. And look at his airspeed. He's in full afterburner as he pulls through there, and he slightly dives. He's at 200 knots. Right here, as soon as he starts letting go of the stick, and he's doing a bit of a dive, he's picking up to 250, but again, he pulls back on the stick really aggressively, goes up. I've caught up with him. Still sticking on him. I still have my gear down at this point. And he is just floundering. Get some hits on him here. This is where Nomad calls out that my gear is down. I bring my gear up, and let me literally, his engine has twice as much energy as I do. I've got my gear down. He's got those bags, but he should be just outrunning me. Just a few seconds of straight flight. He's at 260, 270, 280. He's picking up that speed really well. I'm following him downhill. Get additional hits on him. Right here, he pops out his air brake. So watch what happens to his speed. He pulls his nose way back, 24 degrees of AOA, 25, and he pops out his air brake. His speed is going down, down, down. He's trying to make me do an overshoot. And here's what would happen. If I did the overshoot and continue flying straight, he could shoot an AIM-120 at me. When you recognize you're going to have an overshoot, get out of the way. So here I turn out of the way. He can't follow me because he's too slow. All he can do is fly straight and try not to hit the ground. And he turns away. I turn back in. And again, here's his mistake again. Few seconds of flying straight. He picks up his speed. But then he's look at him. He's yanking back on the stick so hard. His airplane is wobbling. Let's go to his cockpit view and just take a look at this. So if we go into his cockpit view and just watch what he's doing. So let's hit play. So he's flying, and he's just pulling back on the stick as hard as he can. Look at that. He's pulling so hard the airplane is almost stalling out. Look at that. Look how hard he's pulling right there. Just crazy. He does get a couple of hits on me, but it costs him all of his airspeed again. So let's take a look at that again. So he's coming through. He's at 220 knots. He pulls so hard on the stick. He's 230, 220. Tries to bring his nose up. He does get a couple of hits on me, but he's down to 200 knots again. I can afford to do this, and as you can see, my AOA is continuously staying at 18, 17, 16. I unload and then just come back in again. Again, here's his other chance to pick up speed. This little turn, he is pretty much blasting away from me. He's at 400 knots. I'm only at 290. But once again, as we come through this turn, what does he do? He pulls back hard on the stick again. Max performing his aircraft. But again, loses all of his airspeed, and now he's down to 200 knots. Again, we cross one more time. This is kind of his end of his game. He's got no speed, and he hits the ground, guys. So a couple of takeaways here is, if you're an F-16, get your speed. Don't pull back on the stick. Try to extend away, come back, fire the guy with missiles if you have them. Use your flares, dump your tanks, and of course, fly safe, everybody. Plasma 1945 out.